Hello there, and welcome to a quick update on the Arbor roadmap, progress and best practice highlights from the last term. So we've just starting term two. We've just had a long 8-week term beginning from September, and during that time I've seen and witnessed so much going on with Arbor that I want to share some key highlights in this short presentation. I think it's really important that we recognise that we've made such good progress with Arbor since its implementation in the summer term. Since its launch, we've made good progress across our primaries, our secondaries and our special phases, and there's some really exemplary work going on with custom report writing, interventions, auto absence, attendance management, and parent communications. But there's so much more that we can still get out of the system, and that's why our Arbor roadmap is going to last for at least the next 18 months so that we really get the best out of this software, so we get the best insights to help us with our quest to improve each and every school that we work in. So what I'd like to do in this little presentation is just review and reflect on some best practice across our trust, and to clarify the kind of key priorities for this term, term two, so that you can look out for engagement events which will help you secure a better understanding and better effective use of Arbor in your own school. Also, I think it's really important that we also take the time to celebrate the shared learning and the real fantastic collaborative spirit that's driving our success with the Arbor implementation. So where are we now in our Arbor journey? Well, we're gaining insights every day to help us secure school improvement, but it's not just about getting insights, it's also about efficiency, it's about people being confident with the data, and it's also about enhancing our communication with our stakeholders, particularly our parents. So the achievements to date is we've had a core rollout, which is complete for all phases, and all schools are now using Arbor for daily essential tasks. We're seeing an increased adoption of analytics. We're seeing lots of interventions, lots of attendance banding tools, lots of custom reporting, and real insightful tools being developed within Arbor to support teaching and learning and to support pastoral care. We're also onboarding a new school who joined the trust this year, Ansford. They're in the process of onboarding, and they will go live with Arbor from January, coming away from the sims.net platform that they're currently working with. So the foundations are really solid. We're moving beyond basic implementation into what is strategic, insightful led practice. And our plans for term two are ambitious but realistic. In term one, since September, we've allowed people to embed, to build confidence, to develop their expertise. And now we feel that we're ready for the next phase of a little bit of acceleration in terms of how we use Arbor. So the term two priorities are as follows. We're going to build greater consistency across all schools. We're going to develop insight-led practice through the use of case studies. We want all staff to grow in staff confidence and capability. We're really going to focus on interventions, how you set up interventions within Arbor, whether it's behaviour interventions or academic interventions. We want you to be confident in setting up those interventions. And we're going to use a case study from Preston School to illustrate that with some training in term two. We also want to focus on nailing attendance. You may be aware, you may not be aware, but Somerville School has been awarded hub status through the RISE improvement programme with the DFE, and Somerville will be leading on a lot of training and support for attendance, and we will make sure that that is seamlessly integrated with Arbor. Something that's really important is that we have to ensure that 100% of our schools are using the parent app, and this is particularly important for payments. If a school does not use parent app, it's not going to be able to use its payments feature effectively. And there are a number of primary schools, for example, who are yet to adopt parent app, and we wanted that done in the summer, and we've had some delays with that. So I will be talking to individual primary school heads where parent app has not been adopted yet, because we really need to get that on board. As I mentioned, Ansford are going through the process of onboarding, and they will join our family of Arbor schools in January. And they're very excited by this work, and they're looking forward to utilising and gaining the benefits from Arbor. Another area that we're going to look at in term 2 is the development of provision maps, particularly for SEND. And we're going to look at how we can actually perhaps create those provision maps within Arbor and roll that out from term 3. And then, as I've mentioned already, we really want to really look at parent communications and best practices with the parent app. So we'll be providing training again for parent app, for the attendance interventions. And the other key priority with attendance that I haven't mentioned, that I'll say a little bit more about later in this presentation, is the AI feature called Auto Absence, which is transforming the work of 2 schools in our trust at the moment, who are pilot schools. That's St Dunstan's and St Mark's. So we're now beyond the initial rollout. The next stage is about depth, using Arbor intelligently to inform decisions, to trigger timely actions and interventions, and support pupils with precision and care. So what we want to really achieve is precision use of data to really sharpen our intervention so that we are much more efficient and effective and have more impact in the work that we do with our young people each and every day. So this slide is entitled Building Confidence Through Collaboration. What does that really mean? Well, in essence, it's about working together. And it's about building our confidence together. We're all on the same journey. None of us at the start of this journey were experts in Arbor. It's a brand new product for our schools and for the majority of colleagues. Some colleagues in previous schools have used Arbor, but essentially it's a new way of working. And that creates challenges and it creates issues for people in their everyday life. Our brains get used to using a particular system, Sims, and now we need to use a new system. So we need to just adapt, and it takes time for that adaptation to take place. But one of the strongest signs of the maturity of an organization in any rollout is when the schools start learning from each other rather than relying purely on phoning helplines, whether it's the Arbor helpline or phoning central team colleagues. It's by working together and setting up networks, informal. At the moment, we want to look at maybe making a formal network later in the academic year, but essentially encourage an informal network. And then I see this every day in my work, working in the secondary schools that I work in each and every week. So staff confidence is growing. Some schools are really rolling ahead fast with dynamic work within Arbor. They're using the analytic tools very strongly. They're creating interventions. They're evaluating interventions, and even now, some schools are starting to look at predictive issues, asking questions like to Arbor, ask Arbor, the AI function of Arbor, saying, tell me which students are likely in the next 2 weeks to reduce in attendance, simply using algorithms to actually predict likely scenarios. And this is really, really helpful to schools because it enables schools to become less reactive and more proactive in terms of their interventions. And if you're more proactive, then you generally tend to have less things to deal with and things don't build up to become a bit of a crisis. Another area that we need to develop further is really cross-phase learning, primary, secondary, specials learning from each other. I think sometimes we still work in silos and we need to think about how we're going to work more closely across different phases. And there is some work going on in some key schools working with partner secondary schools, for example, with primary schools, but it's not as well established and it's not routine. So we will be looking at over the next few terms how we engage in more cross-phase learning to break down those barriers between special schools, mainstream schools, primaries, secondaries, and so forth. And the other thing that we're keen to consider and develop is peer coaching, school-to-school support, emerging organically is what's happening at the moment, which is great. But what we may want to do is look at how we formalize those networks, and that's something that we are responding to because that's what many colleagues have told us they would like to see. But that takes a lot of time to organize. Unfortunately, getting people together with finite diaries and finite time to deal with networking opportunities does take a bit of time, but we want to start building that and getting that launched into term 3 as part of the Arbor roadmap. So here we've got our first case study of what's been achieved in term 1 and over the summer. And this is Preston Academy, a secondary school in Yeovil. And where they have got particular strength in the Arbor development in they've got strengths in many areas, but one area which I saw quite recently in a visit to Preston was how they're using interventions to support learning and to accelerate learning, particularly in Key Stage 4. And here we've got an example where you can see the timetable of a child in Key Stage 4, and you can see there that there's a lesson 12:15 to 13:15 Year 11 maths intervention. And that child goes to that intervention instead of the PE in their timetable. And so what we've got is interventions seamlessly integrated into timetables for youngsters, which they then can see in the app. Parents can see it in the timetable app as well, feature. And basically, with the intervention programs that they have, they're actually creating up to additionally 700 hours of additional learning time for core subjects such as English and mathematics. And they've developed a sophisticated dashboard using Arbor's tools. They also use some additional software, but essentially they're using Arbor as the basis for providing visual clarity that students need so they know where they're supposed to be for their interventions. They're also able to use live attendance data to monitor attendance at those intervention sessions, and they're also able to use specific analytics to actually look at what impact those interventions are having on the potential outcomes for those children. So I will be doing some work with Preston Academy with Matt Doble, the head teacher there, over the next weeks, and we will be providing some training before Christmas on developing interventions in Arbor for your context, whether it's primary or secondary. And this is a piece of training that will be advertised and it will be confirmed towards the end of November, beginning of December. But be rest assured that we really believe that the interventions feature of Arbor is something quite powerful. It's something that not many schools are using so effectively at the moment, but certainly we've got a very, very good case study over in Yeovil at Preston Academy to learn from. Our second case study is St Mark's, and this is linked to custom report writing and narrative case studies. St Mark's is a relatively small school, secondary, with a significant cohort of SEND children and children who come from disadvantaged backgrounds. Its attendance is slightly below national average. However, its attainment is extraordinarily good. So the children make really good progress and achieve excellent results at St Mark's. And one of the things that we've been doing over the last term with St Mark's is looking at attendance case studies. And so what we created was a case study template in custom reporting within Arbor. That report is actually available for every school now, and I will be sharing it with schools in this term. That report gives a data dashboard of key information such as current attendance, attendance last year, attendance the previous year, where the child is disadvantaged, has SEND needs, the level of family engagement, parent voice, impacts and barriers to attendance, student voice, all range of factors that can be mail merged into a key document. So we take the key information from the database from Arbor, and then we mail merge it into a Word document, and that provides us with a case study profile. And this is really important for Ofsted inspections, for local authority meetings, for line management meetings, where we're talking about the narrative and the story of a particular child. So even though attendance is slightly below national average at St Mark's, I know working with that school over the last 8 weeks that it's doing excellent work with individual children to improve attendance. And that story needs to be told to Ofsted, for example, during inspection, to the CEO, to others who have got a vested interest in the attendance. And also it needs to be told to parents. So this is a fantastic case study profile that's been developed with St Mark's using Arbor. And we want to provide some training this term to demonstrate how you could use the profile custom report that's already in Arbor, that's been created by myself, that you can then use to create your own attendance case study profiles. Really effective use of Arbor to communicate key information on 1 or 2 sides of A4. So here in this slide, you can see an example of my picture there, I think. I'm in year 10, and you can see some of the key features of this case study profile that's been developed by St Mark's for attendance. So using Arbor's customs report writing tools produces a real strong narrative for case studies that brings the data to life. Creating these profiles for individuals shows their journey of improvement and growth, and enables governors, leaders, Ofsted inspectors, parents, and others to not just understand the story, not understand just the statistics, but understand the story behind the statistics, the real impact stories, and how attendance is improving for those children through this case study approach. Now, I'm really excited by this particular case study. It's in Dunstan's. This is a case study where St Dunstan's and also St Mark's are using auto attendance and auto absence as an intervention. Basically, how it works in a nutshell is that when parents phone in that they're saying their child is off school, that phone call is then transcribed automatically to Arbor. It is then typed into Arbor automatically. The recording of the conversation by the parent is available to see and hear, and then Arbor automatically interrogates that information and puts in the registration mark. It provides the opportunity for checking, of course, because we don't always rely purely on automation, but this has been an absolute godsend to attendance officers. It's saving over an hour a day in admin time, which enables the attendance officer to focus on more meaningful conversations with children, or to look at data interrogation to identify key students that are moving up and down within the attendance bands. The automation, as well as being efficient and saving time, provides for faster identification of any concerning patterns. It provides alerts to people, and this shift to auto attendance has been really quite transformational at St Dunstan's. And they've cut out repetitive administration tasks, allowing the attendance office to focus on what truly matters, supporting families and improving presence and designing for presence. So we'll be rolling out auto attendance in term 2 and term 3 to schools. The details are still being worked through. We'll be working with Arbor, and the green light for this project will take place, has already taken place, but what we will do is phase it in so it's not an overwhelming experience. It does require a little bit of setup within your Arbor system. It's relatively straightforward. It will require some IT input to make sure that your voice messaging service can work clearly with Arbor. There is a bit of setup, and we will therefore use a phased approach. But this is going to be transformational. It's worked brilliantly in the 2 pilot schools, and we look forward to rolling it out to more of our schools in due course. So in terms of rollout for the attendance AI automation, pilot schools have been St Dunstan's and St Mark's, and they've been tested and refining the system for term 1. The wider rollout, as I say, will be phased. This is really quite exciting. It's where Arbor begins to work for us, automating low-level administration so that people can focus on relationships. Auto attendance will be a core part of phase 2 rollout, with St Dunstan's and St Mark's leading that learning and supporting other schools through the transition. And as I say, more details to follow on that. Another key area that we want to look at is the parent app. Not all of our schools are using Parent App, and unfortunately, disappointingly, some of our primary schools who were due to go online with Parent App in the summer have yet to start using Parent App. And I'll be talking to those schools individually to really move things forward. Because if we don't use Parent App, then we're not really having effective communication and using Arbor to its full potential. And one of the key issues is that when we introduce payments into primary schools, it does talk to the parent app. So if you want payments, then you need to have the parent app. So the parent app is something we want to develop further, and we know that some schools have got some reservations about what kind of information should be shared on the parent app, and we've deliberately kind of from the trust sort of said that it's up to you at the local level to decide what information you want to share. We will provide some guidance and some ideas on what you should be sharing as part of a training events that we will be putting on in term 2 for the parent app. So the parent app is one of the most powerful tools we have for engagement. We'll be actively following this up with schools who are not using it consistently, or schools who are not using it at all, and we're providing that support needed to make it a universal strength across the whole trust. So it's really important that all of us, particularly school leaders, engage with implementing the parent app within Arbor. I think another thing to remember is that high quality data isn't just about being compliant. It's the foundation for our insights, our every intervention, every improvement strategy. So it's really worth our while to make sure that our data has got integrity, our data is really trustworthy, because then our decisions that we make and our priorities with the limited time that we have become sharper, and our impact becomes more measurable as school leaders. This is particularly important in all areas of leadership, whether it's middle leadership, senior leadership, classroom leadership. Basically, as leaders of learning, wherever we are in the hierarchy of different roles, it's important that we all recognise that the data we use needs to have integrity, so that it provides us with accurate judgments that we make in terms of interventions that move forward learning. Looking ahead to beyond term two, we've got some initial thoughts on our spring term three priorities as part of our Arbor roadmap. One area is simply look at the analytics and deepen our understanding of report writing and predictive insights. So, for example, there are some schools that are now starting to use the Ask Arbor feature to look at asking the question, tell me in year 11, based on previous attendance rates, who do you predict might be absent, and who do you predict should be priorities for us to maybe look at from a preventative approach? And this is really quite insightful and really quite cutting edge, extending the boundaries really, where you're using the AI to help predict potential problems that may not actually arise. But it's a useful approach to developing analytics using AI. We will have by term three universal use of the parent app, and we'll make sure that that's working well. Auto attendance rollout will carry on into term three, into spring term from term two through our phased approach. And what we would like to see is an embedded peer learning group for Arbor, so that there's actually opportunities for people to talk about Arbor. So other things that we're considering, we're looking at is dedicated Arbor clinics every month, named contacts and case study schools, get a list of named contacts of Arbor champions, online resources and more video guides where appropriate, and central team drop-in sessions as well. Our new school, Ansford, that joined us in May, will be live with Arbor from term three, and we'll be then starting to plan for other new schools such as Pearland in terms of where they move forward with Arbor in terms of their timeline as well. The success measures for term three will be obviously increased intervention impact, improved attendance patterns, and enhanced parent engagement through the use of the parent app, and staff surveys gaining confidence. Coming soon to the conclusion of my presentation this afternoon is looking at Arbor as the driver of equity and opportunity. Better insights leads better attendance, which opens doors to better life chances. This is the promise of intelligent, compassionate use of data. And I use that phrase really carefully. The promise of intelligent, compassionate use of data. As teachers, as schools, as people who work in schools, throughout my whole working life, people have been hung up with spreadsheets and data and overwhelmed by data sometimes. And actually, what we need to do is really stick to close to the knitting with the data, with attendance, for example, looking at PA, looking at absence bandings, looking at comparisons with benchmark schools and that national averages is all very useful. But actually, it's about the individual beating their previous best. That's what we really want each individual to do, is to beat their previous best in attendance. Obviously, to get 100%, they can't go any further, but for most of our children, 100% is not where they are, and we want them to do as best they can. So the insights, the interventions, the opportunities, and the impact are really important. And I suppose what I'm saying is Arbor is more than just a data system. It's a tool for inclusion, belonging, and early help. It enables us to design for presence, and enables us to spot issues in academic development, and enables us to intervene with intelligence and obviously with a high degree of heart. Because if we really want to make a difference as a teacher, we know we have to go the extra mile with our youngsters, and that's an attitudinal thing that has to come from the heart, from every teacher and every TA and every person who works with children in our schools. So just remember Arbor is a driver of equity and opportunity, as well as a simple data set that churns out lots of numbers. And finally, together we're redesigning opportunity. Lots of nice slogans in this little presentation this afternoon. Our vision goes far beyond the software, the systems. Arbor is a way of working that puts pupils at the center, that values the insights that are given through the system, and that builds collective ownership of every child's success. Every skill matters, every leader matters, but most importantly, in your work every day, every pupil matters. So I want to thank all schools who are embracing this journey with Arbor, with ambition, care, and determination. It's not the same as Sims. It's a much different product. It does require a different mindset. That does take time for people to change to a new mindset. I appreciate that. I appreciate that there'll be some people watching this video that still think that Arbor's not very good and Sims was better or other systems are better. That's life. People are entitled to their viewpoint. But we have Arbor and we've got to make the most of it. And what I would say is the progress we've made in term one since the rollout in the summer has been really, really impressive. Keep up all the great work. What we can achieve together is really limitless if we apply ourselves and if we collaborate together. So thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed this short update on our Arbor roadmap journey for term one and what's ahead in term two and beyond. Thank you.